from any board members regarding Matt clarification of this process? Matt, you did mention water based coatings. What type of what are the solvents or VOCs?
They do emit a variety of VOCs. What I can note is them are not in our hazardous air pollutant categories.
Oh, they're not?
They are typically in the single digits of ton per year HAPs. So again, they're allowed 266 tons of VOC, but they emit pretty low HAPs. They use a variety of coatings, so there's numerous different VOCs in them. And I can provide that emission inventory to you if you'd like to see those. But it's a pretty lengthy list.
Oh, okay. Did I hear other questions?
Yeah.
Yes, Mr.
Yeah, this is Steve.
Dr. Colbert.
Jeff, do you have a question? I have one.
Okay.
Matt, I misunderstood, but the limit of 266 tons in their generally sounds like they're emitting like 15% of that limit.
Yes.
Is there a reason to keep that limit that high at 266?
The previous agreements maintain that level, and through this process, there is not a mechanism to lower that level. The company certainly could request a lower limit, but the goal of this new order is to maintain that same net benefit to air quality, not to create an additional benefit. That question you ask is a frequent question of ours, and I think it really does make sense that if you're trying to address ozone and maintain good air quality, we would always want to lower limits. That is just not part of the process. As we work through the current non-attainment with ozone, this board will likely be asked to look at our RACT regulations, of which 6.29 is one, and that may be a mechanism to further reduce emissions. But through this order, our attempt is to acknowledge the control device. Again, it was our original plan to revert them back to the standard regulation, which would have not provided any cap to emissions in that pound per day or ton per year. And EPA noted that would lose that net benefit. So we are maintaining those same limits, not reducing them.
But there's
your point is well taken.
They could go and increase their emissions by, 4, 5, 6-fold, is there? 266.
As you look at that limit, yes, but if you look at those pound per gallon and percent VOCs, those also limit the emissions per gallon. So I don't think it's likely you'll see an increase of emissions. Again, they've had this limit for years, and most companies don't attempt to emit at their limit. They operate for business needs and attempt to stay below. So I don't think this is incentivizing them to increase emissions, but they would not receive a violation if they emitted 261 tons in a year.
I have to admit, it seems strange to me, but
you are not alone in that. Many people suggest that, but you have to go through the permitting processes. But folks, people could build new facilities and emit thousands of tons. We have to go through a process of that. And folks certainly could take voluntary reductions that we could document through a board order and make enforceable, but that's not really the mechanism of this order today.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Colbert, did you have a question?
Matt, you referred to an air pollution control device that they installed. I just wondered what that was. And then the second part of my question, I suppose all of these processes are connected to a common stack, which then goes to the control device. Is that correct?
There are certain lines that are authorized to utilize those solvent-based coatings, those higher VOC coatings. That is currently on one line, so they'll be limited to using that one line. It is an oxidizer that they're using, a fairly efficient control for those VOCs. Many of their other lines will only utilize these low VOC coatings, and those will not be required to be controlled.
Okay. Got
Any
it.
other-
Good, thanks.
Mhm.
Any other-
And that is really the biggest improvement at this facility. When this order was agreed back in 1990 and again 1997, there was no control device. That was what necessitated this bubble. They were able to not control the solvent-based because they use so much water-based. And now that they've put that control in, again, we wanted to revert to the standard regulation, but because of this historic bubble, we're kind of having to do both. So they'll be meeting elements of the standard regulation as well as this emission cap that is part of the bubble. But that control is what has made the emissions much lower and has made the order, as Mr. Sullivan points out, seem as if we're setting a artificially high limit, but it is part of the procedure. That limit was established in the past and that must be maintained.
A question for me.
Sure.
What is the lifespan of the controlling device then? I mean, do we wait until we see higher emissions and think it needs to be replaced, or, is there a check on how that works?
Yes, there are tests that will demonstrate its efficiency. This facility will be due for a new Title V renewal permit in 2022. It has been tested in the past, and we would use that permitting process to require additional testing going out into the future. Basically, if it's hot and the gases are in this oxidizer long enough, we will destroy those VOCs. But we like to also do a stack test where they put a probe, third-party testers measure what's happening in that stack as opposed to rely on the design and calculation. So it will be tested in the future, and it is expected to achieve more than enough efficiency to meet these limits.
And then also just on a individual level, I mean, not for the whole environment of the community, but do we have any role in that in terms of their local environment for the workers?
We don't handle the air inside or above their property. We regulate ambient air, so we don't have a specific role in looking at that. But they do obviously run together, that if the emissions are low to the neighboring community, the emissions should be protective of the workers and the staff in the building. That's typically managed through OSHA and some other agencies that look into that. We're most concerned with what's going to impact the neighbors.
Okay. May I have one late question there?
Sure.
You mentioned they are a Title V company.
Yes, they are.
Are they required to submit a emission inventory to the district every year?
Yes, they submit that annually to us. With these additional limits, we receive information on that in a semi-annual basis.
Okay.
And obviously, upon request, they're required to submit that information in a timely fashion. So we will stay up to date and verify that they're in compliance with those limits.
Thank you. Any other questions from board members? Mrs. Hamilton, has a representative of LL Flags LLC registered to make a statement?
No, Chairman Hilton.
I didn't hear you.
I'm very sorry. Chairman Hilton, no one has registered to speak from the company.
Okay. Has anyone registered to make make a statement other than the company? Anyone from the public?
No, Chairman Hilton.
Has anyone submitted a written statement regarding this agreed board order?
No, sir.
Okay. Are there any other questions from board members regarding this agreed board order with LL Flex
No,
LLC?
not from me.
Okay. There have been no further comments or questions. This public hearing is adjourned, and we will take up the recommendation of the district to move forward this under new business. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Chairman Hilton, this is
Yeah.
Assistant County Attorney Stacy Dott has unfortunately dropped off the call as well. She's trying to rejoin on her cell phone.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to the printed agenda. I think we are down to committee reports.
Chairman Hilton, I'm not sure that we had our opportunity for public comment this morning. We approved the minutes, but I believe that we are at item number 5 on our agenda.
Okay, public comment. Oh, you're right. I got my
And-
papers on.
Forgive me, Chairman Hilton, with the board members trying to join this morning. On the minutes, were there any corrections to the minutes from the October 21st, 2020 meeting?
Not from me.
No, I think what we did, I don't know if you we did go through the submittal of the minutes.
Very good. My apologies.
That's no problem. We just have a little rough day today. I know my internet keeps going on and off, so I don't know what's going on today. But no, I think we did address the minutes, and we didn't have any comments, and the minutes are approved as submitted.
Thank you.
Now, do we have any unfinished business, Mrs. Hampton or Mr. Talley?
Chairman Hilton, could you call for public comment, please?
Yes, public comment, yes I did.
No one has registered public comment today.
Okay. Any unfinished business?
No, sir.
New business, the agreed board order with LL Flex LLC. You've heard the recommendations from Mr. King. Are there any questions regarding this motion to adopt this agreed board order?
No.
Is there a motion? So we do have a second.
A second.
Thank you. Now we will have a roll call on the adoption of the agreed board order. When I call your name, please say yes. Steve Sullivan,
Yes.
Dr. Colbert,
Yes.
Dr. May,
Yes.
Candace White, Heather Allen,
Yes.
and Keith Joy.
Yes.
You all, the agreed, pardon?
Chairman Hilton, I just want to be clear that those who answered yes were voting for the agreed order and not just recognizing their attendance and presence at the meeting.
Right.
Thank you.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. I thought we were. I would like to abstain, if that's an option, just because I'm a new member and I would like to get.
You want to abstain from voting on the agreed board order?
Yes.
Okay, we can do that. We have 5 yes and 1 board member has abstained. Keith Joy has abstained regarding to adopt this agreed board order. Did you get that, Mrs. Hamilton?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Hilton.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Joy, for that. Now we're moving on to committee reports. Do we have any committee, the strategy or the other committees? Have they met since the last meeting, Mrs. Hamilton?
No, sir, those groups have not met yet. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Mr. Talley, we will move on to the director's report.
Excuse me. Thank you, Chairman Hilton. And good morning to the board. I understand all the technical difficulties we're having. I'm thinking perhaps this must be a busy WebEx morning across Metro. But what I would like to start with this morning is to report out on what I think is a very much deserved recognition. The district has just submitted our asbestos report to EPA, and Regina Freeman, our APCD compliance officer overseeing our asbestos program, has done just an outstanding job. And I'd like to point out just a few things. APCD is required to perform inspections of 25% of our NESHAP projects, and that's our National Emission Standards for Hazardous Air Pollutants, which cover in part our asbestos-related work. And for this fiscal year, to date, Regina has completed inspections at a 66% clip. There would be 125 inspections out of 188 projects. And more impressively, during the time that we have been working outside of the office, teleworking, she has completed 100% of the inspections against that 25% requirement. And I just want you to keep in mind, this is one inspector working and adapting to all the changes that the pandemic has created during the work that helps protect not just the health of the workers on these projects, but also the public health of the community at large. And so I just wanted to give a shout out for a great job to Regina and just to thank her publicly for her dedicated hard work. Today, as noted on the agenda, there will be 2 outside presentations as part of the director's report. And so to respect your time, I will try to keep my remarks brief and to the point. District staff continues to participate in online seminars, conferences, and learning opportunities. And I mention these monthly because I believe they are important in keeping staff engaged with the work that is going on around the country and up to date on the latest issues impacting that work. And that's even more important as we all adjust to this new telework environment that we're in. But here's just a brief look at some of these opportunities over the last month that various staff have participated in. The AFCA, which is the Association for Air Pollution Control Agencies webinar on air sensors and citizen science. There has been an EPA Region 4 annual conference, along with the annual fall meetings for both AFCA and NACA, which included topics ranging from grant funding, enforcement and compliance, national ambient air quality standards, the SIPs, the state implementation plans, and then the latest on monitoring, modeling, and other associated issues. As always, these conferences are an excellent opportunity to interact and hear from our peers across the Southeast and nationally. Multiple of our staff are also taking part in Metro's initiative, Build Back Better Together, covering various aspects of the work our city needs to do to recover from everything that's going on from the social unrest and the justice and equity issues to the pandemic. This past month, the health and safety team met. So as this work continues and they establish more definitive plans, I will obviously bring those plans and developments from the Build Back Better Together initiative before the board. As I mentioned at the last board meeting, work on reforming the land development code has begun. And so after 3 initial community meetings, it was determined based on the conversation and discussion that was had at these meetings that additional meetings would be needed to address different components of that work more directly. And so obviously one of the primary components of course will be housing, but as you might expect, there will also be a specific meeting to address the issue of environmental justice issues. And so I will keep the board alert to when that meeting will take place. And I encourage those who have an interest to keep abreast of these. We'll try to get information out, have it posted on our webpage, but to make sure everybody has an opportunity for input into this discussion. Work on the Land Development Code reform is important as we work with some of our more disadvantaged and disproportionately burdened communities, because it will hopefully change the opportunity for those folks to have input and impact on decisions that affect their community on the front end of the process, as opposed to when an application gets to the district for permitting. So this is really important work. As always, we are continuing with our regularly scheduled monthly meetings with EPA. And I am also pleased to tell the board that Rachel Michelle provided a 45-minute presentation on environmental justice to a national audience. It was focused on our community engagement efforts and the development and implementation of the STAR program. As I would expect, and I hope you would, it was very well received. And I have to point out that, in fact, APCD is respected nationally for this work. But we are always quick to point out that there is still much work to be done, and that we are also always very appreciative of hearing about what our peers are doing in their communities. This kind of interaction and dialogue really is a must, and we have to continue to learn and to build on what we are doing and also what others across the country are doing. So these are just always excellent opportunities, but again, Rachel Michelle did just an outstanding job of presenting that information, and again, it was extremely well received by that audience. I want to give just a quick update on our RPM work, which is our risk management program. As you know, the district has conducted a couple of community meetings to discuss the opportunity to propose changes to the risk management program. We got some comments from industry, but we really didn't get the kind of community input that I feel like and we feel like this requires. And as a quick background, the RMP amendments rule made a variety of updates to the RMP program, and they were broadly classified into three different categories. Number one was accident prevention program requirement updates. Number two was enhancements to the emergency preparedness requirements. And then number three was increased public availability of chemical hazard information. So here it is in a nutshell. Briefly stated, this is kind of where we are. The Obama administration updated the RMP program with more stringent guidelines, I think was in 2017. The Trump administration, when they came in, rescinded most of those more stringent components and instituted a less stringent RMP guideline. And so what we're doing now is the district is looking at finding that right level compromise between the two that will provide reasonable upgraded protections for our community. And we're in a position to do that, as we've mentioned multiple times, because we can be more stringent than the state or federal regulations when it's warranted. So in order to spur that additional community engagement and get folks involved, we plan to issue a proposed draft rule for discussion that is a hybrid between the more stringent Obama version and the less stringent Trump version. And we hope that this will give folks something that they can more directly respond to with more specificity, and then talk about those things that they like, that they don't like about that regulation, and we get something that represents the needs and desires and wants of both industry and the community. We will then, at that point, schedule another community meeting. We will bring this draft before the board strategy committee, and then from that point, we will begin a formal comment period prior to a formal public hearing in January. And maybe if all things work out, we'll be able to bring this before the board for approval of a new rule before the end of the first quarter of 2021. Now, the timetable for this could be influenced by the amount of comments that we receive, the content of any of those contents that we receive, which might require us to go back and do major revisions based on the comments and what folks want to see in this regulation. But I wanted to give you a sense of, at least right now, how we see this playing out. And there is also just a remote chance that this becomes a moot point if the new Biden administration adopts the more stringent guidelines that were originally being put in place by the Obama administration. But that timetable really is hard to pinpoint at this time, and so we felt it prudent for us to move forward, put in place what we thought was necessary, and if a new rule comes out from the federal government, obviously that's something we'll take up at that time. Just a real quick staffing update, because we do continue that work even in our virtual reality, and the district is currently working on filling 4 positions. We have an environmental coordinator position, which we are just about ready, I think, to make an offer on. And then the next 3 positions I'm about to list are at various levels of the hiring process. And so we have an APCD Air Quality Assurance Coordinator position, a Communications Coordinator 2 position that will replace Tom Nord, and then an APCD Compliance Officer position. And so all of those are currently in process. And we are looking to get them filled because they are important components of the work that we are doing. I hope everyone had an opportunity to participate in the Louisville Sustainability Summit. It was held this past Thursday, and of course it was virtual, but I have to tell you, that did not keep it from being, in my humble opinion, one of the best. The speakers and the topics were all around justice and equity and how they are impacted by environmental issues. And I think we all learned a lot about the subject, but more importantly, a lot of that discussions centered on how we engage and how we can better engage our communities around these issues. And we had some really good speakers that did just an outstanding job of bringing that point home, talking to us a little bit about what are some of the better ways to engage with the community, things that we need to make sure that we do, make sure that we, just a couple of quick points, that we go in listening and asking questions of the community as opposed to going in telling the community anything. And so just a little bit of change in how you address these issues, how you address these problems, I think will go a long way in terms of improving that engagement and getting the kind of input back that's going to make a difference in the work that we need to do. And I will leave you with what I think is really one of the best analogies I've heard that was made at the summit about what is at stake as we address justice and equity in our community relative to environmental issues. And so I paraphrase a little bit, but it went a little bit like this. The flood is coming, and for many, the flood is here, and we still have people that are in the basement. So how do we get them upstairs? And I think this really sums up very well the problem that we faced as a community in terms of improving equity for everyone. And so just a little food for thought as we all think about how to best address these issues. That really kind of concludes my remarks. As I said, I wanted to try to keep them brief so we could move forward with the 2 additional presentations. But first of all, I will ask, are there any questions for me?
Any questions from board members?
Not for me.
No questions.
All right, well, if not, I'm sorry.
No, go forward.
If not, I'm sorry. If there are no questions, we will proceed with the presentations as outlined in the agenda. First up is a presentation from Stuart Unger of Evolve, Kentucky, and Bennett Knox from Jefferson Memorial Forest. And then we'll have a presentation on Louisville's greenhouse gas inventory and emissions reduction plan from Allison Smith, PhD, from our Metro Office of Advanced Planning and Sustainability. So with that, Stuart, I'll turn this over to you to start with your presentation, and we will follow up with Allison. Stuart, you can take it away.
Mr. Talley. Chairman Hilton?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to be sure that Carl's audio was working. Thank you.
Well, mine's been going on and off ever since the start of the meeting, so I probably missed half the meeting. Audio.
Carl, you're back on, and Bennett, everyone, thank you so much.
Hello, I'm Bennett Knox. Stuart, are you on?
This is Andy Burton. It looks like Stuart is on. However, it looks like his audio is not working.
Okay, give him a second. Stuart, let me see if his audio is not working. Can you go into the chat real quick, Stuart?
Is it working now?
Stuart, are you there?
Now?
Yes. You're on, Stuart.
Okay, good. Thank you, everybody, for having us this morning. Good morning, everyone. And thank you for your time. Bennett and I are going to say a few words, and we'll try to keep it brief. I am from Evolve KY, and actually I've been here to the meetings a couple times before. And thank you for having me back. What is Evolve KY? We are a nonprofit organization based here in Louisville, and our mission is to promote the adoption of electric vehicles as a much cleaner form of personal transportation. As studies have shown that EVs are on average 50% cleaner than diesel vehicles cradle to grave. Slide shows all of our locations. It needs to be updated. Our organization is about 6 years old, and we came to you a while back for our first request, which was with Louisville Grows and Healthy House. We are now, actually, as of this coming December, we will be up to 30 different electric vehicle charger locations in Kentucky. So we've been busy. Some really great areas. We've had Bernheim Forest, Utah Gardens, some natural areas, which is basically what we're going to be asking about today. Okay. Our last request to you all was for the Healthy House EV charger for that. Again, we are almost up to 30 charger locations. The Healthy House in Louisville Grows was our 5th adopted charger location in the Portland neighborhood. We have 2 different locations in the Portland neighborhood. It's used very regularly. It's listed on the PlugShare app. It's free of charge, like all of our chargers. They're used for everybody, basically to encourage cleaner transportation. One of our major things in the last few years is we put out an hour-long documentary film that was crowdsourced, featuring a local filmmaker, which was called Evolve: Driving a Clean Future in Coal Country. And that is available on DVD. It's available through streaming, and it's also been shown as a part of KET several times during Earth Month. And the Healthy House charger has also, of course, been posted on our website and our social media. So whenever we have a charger location, we really do our best to market it and make sure that the public knows about the resource out there. This is a slide of charging station locations in Southwest Louisville. Like more around the downtown area. You can see Jefferson Memorial Forest right there. There really is not much around there as far as charging. There are some chargers, but they'll be in like hotels or they'll be reserved. You'll see GA Park. Those are not for community use. So again, all of our chargers are free of charge, open, and basically to promote cleaner transportation. One thing, kind of a side note, one of our most popular charging locations is the YMCA at Norton Commons. And what I noticed there, because I was a member there before COVID, But one of the things I noticed there is we put in the chargers. We put in a dual charger, which is what we're requesting for today for Jefferson Memorial Forest. And then little by little, I would notice new electric cars with temporary plates. So it really is kind of a chicken and the egg kind of situation where people are used to the gas station model. They're used to seeing their charging location, charging available at home, which most people do, out in the community. And if they see the opportunity to charge, it gives them one more reason to go for a cleaner vehicle next time they want to make a purchase, whether it's a used electric vehicle or a brand new electric vehicle. And that's what we want to see. We want to see more cleaner vehicles in our community. So that's what we're all about.
So, Stuart, should I take
Bennett,
over?
you can take it. Yes.
Well, so I'm Bennett Knox. I'm manager of Jefferson Memorial Forest. And when Stuart approached us about a potential for an EV charger at Jefferson Memorial Forest, we were just really excited because it dovetailed with some improvements that we've been planning. So if you obviously see here on the map the forest, 6,800 acres, I'm going to zoom in on an area that is under design for improvements as part of our Jefferson Memorial Forest Master Plan. So it's the Tom Wallace Recreation Area. And so this was a concept plan that was done a few years ago. It is adjacent to, right across the street from our Welcome Center. And it is our main recreation area, the first at the forest and our most popular. So we get about 500,000 visitors to the forest every year. And this particular location is our most heavily used. And so the location of the charger that we're proposing is going to fit in with the plans we have here, which is this parking lot area that is right, again, across the road from our Welcome Center, just along Mitchell Hill Road. So I have a few photos to try to zoom in on that and show you, and I'll show you the actual plans that we have. We are at the point of construction documentation development. So the timing for this is perfect because we have construction drawings for this expanded parking lot. And so the EV charger stations are proposed to be right next to a trail that comes through, and I'll show you a picture of that. So it's these first two spaces as you enter our parking lot off the main park road. And so it's a really prime location to have visitors passing by, which you can kind of see here. These are literally the two spots that will be developed. That's the location as we construct this new parking lot. And so there's our trailhead sign. So this is the access to the Siltstone Trail. So you can get access to all of our trails on the western end of the forest from this location. And then in the background there through the trees, that's the Welcome Center. That's our visitor center where most people start their exploration. So this particular location is going to offer a lot of opportunities for the public to learn about the role of electric vehicles, their role in improving air quality through the proposed interpretive signage that's a part of the project and part of our ask. So again, just another photograph kind of showing the entrance to that. This is the particular pole that we're going to be coming off of. So the distance, but as far as construction cost is minimized because of the location of utilities nearby. So that's just another aspect. So I'm going to turn it back over to Stuart. So we're just really appreciative of the opportunity to present to you, and hopefully we're going to offer a lot of value in terms of being able to present this learning opportunity to the public as they pass by, the many visitors that are currently there and to come as we make these improvements in the Tom Wallace section. So thanks for your consideration, and I'll turn it over to Stuart.
Thank you, Bennett. Yeah, here's our proposed budget. The total cost is $13,577, which includes everything, basically turnkey, labor, signage, special education signage, 2 EV chargers, and pedestal. One thing that I want to notice is what we normally do with our installs is our signage, which includes a reserve and a sponsor sign. So those are going to still be there, but we have an item that's called special education signage. And this is something that we're actually very excited about. We have not to date done a install where we have an opportunity to make a bigger sign, a more elaborate sign that actually touts the environmental benefits of what we're trying to do here. And that's actually what we can do in this spot. And that's where one of the pieces where your support will help. And we would, of course, do that in collaboration with APCD. We've been talking to Michelle, and we're actually very excited about that piece and getting that. Part of this, Jefferson Memorial Forest is going to be contributing a significant amount. They're going to be contributing a little under $3,000 for trenching and charger-based construction, and about $1,400 for materials, which leaves us with a balance of $9,196. Our request to PCD is $5,000, and that will leave the balance of $4,196 for additional community support, which perhaps Bennett could speak to a little bit.
So we have a nonprofit that supports the forest called Wilderness Louisville, and we've presented this proposal to the board, and so they're in favor of doing some fundraising around this. So we have an avenue to go after community sponsorships, and there would be a potential space on the sign to place the logo of sponsors, and we have a track record of being successful there. This isn't a tremendous amount. We also have the opportunity, we have a pretty significant mailing list and social media presence. So one of the ideas that we have is to do a small crowdfunding around this project. So everything that comes in as leverage really helps in that kind of ask in the community for donations. So with our support in terms of the forest and then hopefully support from Air Pollution Control District, we really feel confident that we can raise that additional amount through our friends group, Wilderness Louisville.
Yeah, and in addition, Ben and I were talking about the significant amount of opportunities that are going on at Jefferson Memorial Forest, and we think as an additional big one. And we're also going to make the chargers blend in with the aesthetic at Jefferson Memorial Forest. Like we did, we have a charger that we're very proud of at Udell Gardens. Instead of putting it on our normal metal base, we are going to have it on like a seat. So there's some of the details that we've already kind of ironed out to make it fit in. But again, like something like the educational side will make it stand out in a good way. And just thrilled about this because it's basically our demographic. My wife and I go hiking at Jefferson Memorial Forest a lot. She always wants to go on the red trail, and I'm usually not up for that, but I love hiking there as well. And I think folks that are going to be passing by, again, it really might make the difference for somebody that's considering replacing their vehicle, going from a hybrid to a fully electric, or going from a gas or diesel vehicle to either a plug-in hybrid or an electric car. And that's how it works. It's one step at a time. So we really appreciate your time with considering this. And unless there's anything else, Bennett?
No, just thank you very much for your consideration. Yeah. Appreciate the opportunity.
Any questions?
Are there any questions from board members? Comments?
This is Dr. May. I just wanted to ask about the downtown locations, the map as to where things were, chargers located went pretty quick. So I knew that I saw the green building, but that's about all I noticed for the downtown, more urban area.
Okay, yeah. Can we get that slide with the locations listed?
Downtown.
The listed locations?
Yes.
Oh, the list. Sorry.
Yeah, like I mentioned, we have two in the Portland neighborhood. When we started out, and still, what we really wanted to do was try to get at least one charger location in each neighborhood. It's a monumental task, but we've been kind of plugging away, if you don't mind the pun, at it. But we're very proud that we have two in the Portland neighborhood, which is an underserved area, but a lot of there. My daughter and I have volunteered for Louisville Grows, so we were really happy about Healthy House and all the work that they do there. Obviously, some of the things that require attendance at Healthy House have been put on hold for COVID, but that's a temporary thing. But But at the East End, Louisville, we have one at Thomas Jefferson Unitarian Church. We have ones downtown. Jefferson Community Technical College, our first college. We have a bunch in the Highlands. Coffee shops are actually very popular because people are able to charge while they get a cup of coffee and a Danish or something. Hikes Point, Prospect. There's just a number of them, and we're doing well. We're getting to the point where I think the one that you all helped sponsor was our 5th charger location, and it's just one step at a time. And we're getting to the point where folks are contacting us now, which is nice for a change, because we would kind of been talking about a charger at Jefferson Memorial Forest probably for over 2 years. So, and that was the same thing at Bernheim Forest. Some of these charging locations take a long time. Some, like Irish Rover, it's a matter of weeks. So there's a lot of different things. So, is that your question?
This is Carl Hilton. I'd just like to share some information. Early September, I had a chance to drive to Bernheim Forest. And as soon as I pulled into the parking lot, I saw this charging station. I was really surprised you hadn't went out there. I've lived here many years. But as soon as I pulled into the parking lot, a car pulled in from Michigan. And he plugged in. I said, well, how did you find this? I mean, you're only about 65. I mean, you're only probably about 10 minutes from 65 South. He said he had an app on his phone that pinpointed all the charges. I didn't realize that was available.
Yeah, that's the PlugShare app. That's what's showing. And there are other apps, but that's really the go-to app that people will see. Yeah.
He was from Michigan, and he put right in. You had the designated parking spots for the charging. So it's really a nice location out there at Bernheim Forest.
I think as far as Jefferson Memorial Forest, we're right along I-65 as well. So and even 265. So we're really excited about what this means for people who will find us from out of town. We have a campground. So it just really is a growth opportunity for us, and it's good PR for everyone.
Yes.
Excited about it.
I was really interested to see that we had an out-of-state car pulled into a charging station. Are there any other comments from board members?
Yeah, I like the whole idea of everything going on, but all of this is geared towards the individual driver and individual person. I know that we have the zero bus in terms of for TARC, but what I was wondering is there any other development in terms of something a little more commercial, like I'm thinking about like a TARC 3 or because all those drivers and pickups, they tend to also have a lot of idling time, and most of those people who need pickups are pretty much in the central downtown area would have a good impact. But I don't know that there's an actual vehicle that would then be purchased by the city, and then would be able to utilize, some charging station from there. So I don't know that you know this information, but I thought I'd ask.
I don't. I love the idea of multi-passenger vehicles. Outside of buses, unfortunately, we don't have a lot. I mean, at this point, but that is changing. Ford just announced a van that they're going to be producing, I think, either in 2021 or 2022. So that's exciting. You can possibly have a multi-passenger van, and that also would be able to plug into a site like this. I know with Bernheim, since we installed that charger, they have purchased a Chevy Volt and I believe that 2 or 3 other EVs. So not only is it being used by people it's being used by staff members from time to time. So again, it's a catalyst for change, and that's really what we're trying to do.
Chairman Hilton, this is Ms. Hamilton. With your lead, I do want to mention that the city does have a team working on this concern. That's the Drive Team Louisville team. So Dr. May's question, and given our next presentation, it sounds like this would be another presentation that perhaps we should invite those folks to come and speak to the board in the new year to explain how they're taking on that kind of multi-person transportation related impact. I also wanted to clarify, Chairman Hilton, that the request that's being made today is actually to the board. It is the board, of course, who has authority to disperse funds from the Air Quality Trust Fund, not the district. And just a general reminder that disbursement of the fund is for any project that the board determines is air quality research and development project related. It's a special non-recurring air quality project or an air quality educational program. That information can be found in APCD Regulation 1.17. The current balance of the fund as of July 1 was $18,220.33. I'm happy to provide any additional information that you may need on the Air Quality Trust Fund and the board's access to those funds.
So, Ms. Hamilton, the board will take this up at our December meeting for the request for $5,000 at the December meeting, right?
If that's the board's recommendation, absolutely, we will.
I think to give the board a chance to think about the request. So I hear any objection to vote on this at the December meeting from anyone, board members?
No objection. We can wait till December.
I think that's a good idea, Carl. Put it on, it should be put on the agenda.
Agenda
December.
Thank you. Yeah, so we'll put this on the agenda for the December meeting, and the board will have a chance to think about it. This request for $5,000. Thank you very much.
My dear colleague Michelle King has reminded me that we've also announced the Green Fleets Challenge here in Louisville. If the board, like Ms. King and some others, can provide that update at the December board meeting as you're contemplating this request.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for the presentation, an excellent presentation, and continue to do the good work. These electric charging stations are really nice. The guys got them in a real nice location. They seem like they're very simple to use. People just drive in, plug it in, and wait. So they really look nice. Thank you very much for your presentation.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Moving on, we have another presentation, Mr. Charlie. That's the Louisville Greenhouse Gas Inventory and Emission Reduction Plan.
Yes, that would be Allison Smith. Allison, if you're ready.
It appears that Allison's audio is not functioning at this moment. We can see you, but we cannot hear you, Allison.
And if I could share my screen as well. Hello?
Allison, yeah.
Okay, you should be good to go now, Allison.
Great.
Yeah. Yes.
You can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Sorry about that.
No, we've had problems all day. So.
My name is Allison Smith, and I'm with the Office of Advanced Planning and Sustainability for Louisville Metro Government. And I'm here today to talk about Louisville Metro's greenhouse gas inventory and emissions reduction plan. The Office of Advanced Planning and Sustainability envisions, designs, and implements long-range planning solutions. So we do everything from multimodal initiatives, neighborhood planning, long-range planning, such as the comprehensive plan. We also encompass public arts, brownfields, and sustainability, which is what we're here to talk about today. Our sustainability team is made up of myself, our director, Gretchen Milliken, Natalie Vizina, and Julie Donna. Unfortunately, in the next month or two, we will be losing both Gretchen and Natalie. They have moved to other areas and will be leaving Metro government, but Julie and I are here for the long haul, I can assure you. We're not going anywhere. And we'll be looking to add at least one team member to help keep these initiatives going. The reason that we're even talking about greenhouse gas emissions is because of our changing climate. I'm sure that with this group, I do not need to tell you that temperatures are higher and that we have had our 3 largest rain events in Louisville in the last decade. And anyone from MSD will be happy to tell you about that as well. And this is really what we're looking to address. So this shows 3 different potential climate scenarios based on actions that we take. So in the red on the graph, that shows our potential average temperature from historical to late 20th century. In the red is business as usual. So if we do nothing different, if we continue emitting at the same rate, our average temperature will go up anywhere from 7 to 12 degrees. And that is a significant increase, and it will have air quality and public health effects as well. If we reduce emissions, we can lower that and mitigate the effects of that change that we see coming. So our goal is to stay in that very lowest part of the graph where we have our lower emissions scenario, which means we are taking action to mitigate, and our average temperature would only increase 5 to 8 degrees. That is where we want to be. That is what all of these initiatives are trying to do, is to mitigate the effects of that coming climate change. We realize the urgency of this issue. In September of 2019, the mayor declared a climate emergency and said we needed to address it just like fire and EMS respond to a 911 call. As a part of that, the mayor signed on to the Global Covenant of Mayors in 2016. This is essentially a group of mayors from around the world coming together and agreeing that regardless what happens at the federal level, our cities agree to abide by the Paris Climate Agreement, which means we will try to reduce warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius increase and no more. There are 2 components to the Global Covenant of Mayors. One is what we're going to talk about today, climate action. How do we slow climate change? How do we mitigate those emissions? The other component is climate adaptation. Even if we stop emissions tomorrow, we're still going to see increase. And how do we adapt our city to be resilient and prepared for that? But today we'll talk mainly about the climate action. So our requirements for the Global Covenant of Mayors were to complete a greenhouse gas inventory, to establish a reduction target, and then to create an action plan to get there. So the first step was our 2016 greenhouse gas inventory. We looked only at core emissions, and as you can see from this image, our core emissions included stationary energy, so energy used by residences, commercial and institutional, in manufacturing. It included transportation, so on-road transportation, but also rail and aviation, and then waste emissions from solid waste, composting, incineration, and wastewater. There are a couple of other areas that are not included in our core emissions. Those are industrial processes and agriculture. So those are not in our emissions inventory, but our core emissions are shown here. So for 2016, when we did our inventory, we had 16,537 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. When we compare that to our baseline from 2010, we actually saw a little over 10% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. That is excellent news. Most of that change is the result of LG&E converting their Cane Run power plant from coal burning to natural gas, which burns much cleaner. So a lot of those reductions are a result of that shift in energy use at LG&E. For our 2016 inventory, so those 16 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. Now, almost all of our emissions result from burning coal and other fossil fuels, but the way our inventory looked at this is who's using that energy, right? So even though it comes from the power plant, who uses the energy that requires that fossil fuel to be burned? So for our greenhouse gas inventory, 27% of our emissions were from residential buildings, so the homes that you and I live in. 26% came from commercial and institutional buildings. 20% was from manufacturing industries and construction, and on-road transportation accounted for about 17% of our emissions. There are a few others in there, so the actual plant that LG&E runs, its use is about 4.9%, and there are some other minor contributors such as off-road transportation and waste. But our primary drivers of emissions are residential buildings, commercial buildings, manufacturing, and on-road transportation. Oh, and you can also see our comparison to both the national average and our peer cities. So we are doing worse than the U.S. national average. The average for the U.S. is 16.5 tons carbon dioxide equivalent, that's per capita. Here in Louisville, we're about 20.9 tons of CO2 equivalent. So we have some work to do even to beat the national average. So the next step for us was to set an emissions reduction target. Louisville Metro set a target of reducing our greenhouse gas emissions 80% by 2050. Now, almost as soon as this target was set, additional data and research became available that tells us that this is not quite aggressive enough. But when this target was set, it was in line with the Paris Climate Agreement, and it was a common target set by many cities around the world. But we recognize that we need more aggressive action if we're to mitigate the worst effects of climate change. Louisville Metro Council stepped in February of this year and passed a 100% renewable resolution, and it set 3 targets for our community. The first target is in 2030, and that is for Louisville Metro government operations to have 100% clean, renewable electricity. So that's just for Louisville government operations. The next target is in 2035, which is 100% clean energy for Metro government operations. So that's not just electricity use, but also other uses such as our vehicles. The last target is the most ambitious, and that is to have 100% clean energy community-wide by 2040. This is a very aggressive target, but we have a plan laid out and are working to implement that so that we can reach that target. Our emissions reduction plan to achieve that 80% reduction by 2050, while our target is not aggressive enough, the strategies that we've laid out in our emissions reduction plan are sound. And if we adhere to those strategies and speed up their implementation, we feel that we can achieve Metro Council's renewable resolution. So in our greenhouse gas emissions reduction plan, it explains what our business as usual forecast is. If we do nothing, what will it look like? It provides reduction strategies. It also lays out the co-benefits. This is not just an issue of slowing climate change, but this is protecting public health, improving air quality, and even supporting economic development. It lays out who is responsible for each measure, how we track an advancement of these metrics, as well as financing and policy strategies. So here are some of our strategies. Now that first sector, the stationary energy, so our homes, our businesses, our manufacturing. We have several strategies designed to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from 2 prongs. First, we want to encourage solar panels on as many residential and commercial buildings as possible. Particularly as you see in the lower right-hand corner, these large facilities that have long, flat roofs with tons of square footage are ideal for solar generation to power that facility. And when we add solar panels, we are not only reducing greenhouse gas emissions, we are lowering energy costs. This is a little bit trickier for homes. We also want to encourage solar PV systems on residences. Unfortunately, the rules on net metering will soon change, probably at the first of the year, which means that it will not be as favorable economically to install solar panels on your home. It will still pay off, but it will take longer to get back that investment. So at Metro Government, we are looking at ways of how we can incentivize solar installation on residences to try to make up for that loss we'll see when the net metering rules change. Another big part of our strategy is deep energy retrofit. If we can reduce energy consumption by 50%, then we have to install less solar. We have less energy to replace. So a big part of our plan is doing energy efficiency around homes. We're looking at how can we provide a fund that will help low-income residents who are already most cost burdened by their energy costs to be able to do those energy efficiencies that will not only reduce our greenhouse gas consumption, but also lower our energy costs. Another strategy for particularly industrial facilities is converting to renewable natural gas. Now, this is different than the natural gas that LG&E uses. That is a fossil fuel that is derived from hydrofracking. Renewable natural gas actually comes from an anaerobic digestion process, and it's generated from organic waste such as animal and food waste. So this is a renewable source that is not a fossil fuel. There are ways to convert to renewable natural gas, and we're going to encourage businesses and industries to look into that. Our transportation strategies are also a big part of our reduction plan, and I love that Stuart and Bennett were here to talk about EV charging stations that support totally our implementation strategy for reducing emissions. And Dr. May, I'll also add, as far as charging stations, that is one of the strategies that we are taking. We know that if we're going to encourage electrification of our vehicles in the city, we need the infrastructure to support that. So Louisville Metro is looking at how can we begin implementing that infrastructure throughout the city. As Rachel mentioned, we do have a green fleet team. One of our commitments as Louisville Metro government is to electrify our fleet. That is a longer-term process, but we are committed with each new vehicle we buy. We get the most efficient vehicle we can, electric if possible, if not hybrid. I'll also tout the fact that LMPD, which has been very difficult to talk to about electrification of their fleet, now has their first hybrid SUV in the police fleet. So that is a huge change for them, and we're hoping that that will work out and we'll be able to encourage more of that. Dr. May, you mentioned the electric buses downtown, and I'm sorry to say that unfortunately those were cut due to budget costs last year. We were really sorry to lose that fleet. Unfortunately, you know, the cost of providing the electricity to run those was cost prohibitive when working with LG&E. We're also looking at our Move Louisville, which is our transportation plan. And the main goal of our transportation plan is to reduce vehicle miles traveled. And with every fewer vehicle miles traveled, we have less emissions. So doing things like installing our bike share program across the city, making sure that people have sidewalks or bike lanes if they want. We installed the first bus rapid transit line for TARP on Dixie Highway last year. We're now looking, as I mentioned, our office also does transportation planning. So we're looking at a redesign of Broadway. And could that be our next bus rapid transit line? The next one, we're going to look at Preston Highway and how could that fit into this larger scheme. So we're looking at ways to reduce traffic, whether it's through electrifying our fleet to reduce emissions, improving TARP service, or just providing more options for people. The last set of strategies is waste and wastewater emissions reduction. This basically is about sending less material, less organic material to the landfill. And we do that through composting. Now, I have a composter in my backyard. I'm able to do that. I've heard people say, I live in an apartment. I can't do that. My colleague, Julie Donna, who is on the call, also lives in an apartment, and she pays a very small fee for a service that collects her compost materials, and then that gets turned into compost. So there are options, and we need to find a way to incentivize this throughout the city, just like we've done recycling. And we've seen our recycling rates increase with education, with opportunity. We need to do the same for that with composting. And the other strategy that I'll mention is the collection of methane from the landfill. So as any organic matter in that landfill deteriorates and breaks down, it's going to release methane. Methane is an incredibly potent greenhouse gas, 20 to 30 times more potent than carbon dioxide. So it is imperative that we control those methane emissions. One way to do that at landfill is to capture that methane. That methane, that renewable natural gas, can then be used just like fossil fuel natural gas can. So that can actually go right back into LG&E's grid, and that can be used for energy production. So we have a wide set of strategies. As I said, we want to pursue these as aggressively as possible. So we're working on implementation of the emissions reduction plan. For Louisville Metro, we want to lead on this. It's going to take everyone, but Louisville Metro government wants to step up and be the first to take these steps. So we are currently in the process of hiring an energy manager that will look at our metro government operations and help us achieve that first 100% renewable goal in 2030 of 100% renewable energy for our operations by 2030. They will help us look at where are the most cost-efficient energy efficiency measures we can put in. How can we invest in renewable energy, preferably at a utility scale? We continue to do educational outreach, help people understand that this is an issue of climate change, of public health. There are even environmental justice issues tied into this, because we know those that will be most affected by climate change are already the most burdened with energy costs and the least able to rebound from those effects. We are working very hard to track our progress and be incredibly transparent with the efforts that we make. I'll just throw in a plug that as a part of our commitment to the Global Covenant of Mayors, we report to the CDP, that's the Carbon Disclosure Project, and they track cities' progress towards meeting the goals of the Global Covenant of Mayors. This year, we just recently found out we were one of only 88 cities to be given an A rating for our efforts in addressing climate change and reducing emissions. So we're very proud of that. We have a long way to go, but we feel that we've made a good start. And lastly, we want to increase partnerships with the community, whether it's with the APCD board, whether it's with our community advocates for solar. We have so many groups that we work with, and we want to continue those partnerships. I think the fact that Stewart and Bennett are highlighting the work that they're doing at Jefferson Memorial Forest really reinforces the fact that this is going to take all of us. This is not something that government can do on their own. It's going to take the entire community. So we are happy to lead the way in this, and we look forward to working with you in the future on those initiatives. If you have any questions, you're welcome to visit our webpage, louisvilleky.gov/sustainability. And my contact information, as well as Julie, Natalie, and Gretchen, is here. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Well, thank you, Allison, for a very excellent detailed report. Are there any questions or comments from any board members? Allison, I have one question. I noticed on the chart you list 4 or 5 companies per capita of greenhouse gas emission. It looked like all these cities were located down south. Does that mean we don't have too much greenhouse gas emissions in the north?
Whenever we compare ourselves, we always compare to peer cities.
Okay.
Cities that are similar in size, usually similar in climate.
Okay.
Compare that way. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I can understand Knoxville because they have a big TVA facility down there generating. So they use a lot of coal in that area. Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from Allison? Again, thank you very much. Ms. Hampton, I'd like to ask the question. Is it possible the board could get a list of the top 5 greenhouse emitters in Jefferson County? Do you guys track greenhouse emissions in Jefferson County?
Yes, we can definitely provide that for you.
Could you give us a list of 5 or 10, the top greenhouse emitters in Jefferson County, so we have a feel who these companies are?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from board members? Thank you. Moving along, next on our agenda is air quality data. These were distributed electronically. The air quality data, are there any questions or comments regarding the submitted air quality data report? Okay, hearing none. Enforcement status report. I noticed on the last sheet on that, we did have a supplement on the enforcement status report. That's good. So that report is getting shorter every year, it looks like. Excess emission report. Any questions or comments regarding the submitted excess emission report? Hearing none. The complaint investigation status summary, which is a very detailed report. Any questions or comments regarding that report? Okay. So hearing none on any of these submitted reports, again, I want to thank all the board members for your attendance. I apologize for the interruptions. I've had problems, audio's off and on during the whole meeting, so hopefully this is just one meeting that we've had that's sort of gone kind of out of bounds a little bit since we've been doing this since March, but I thank you for your patience and cooperation. And I will now adjourn this regular meeting of the board. And thank you again for your participation. The next board meeting is Wednesday, December the 16th at 10 a.m. Again, thank you very much. And I'd like to again thank Keith Joy for joining the board and looking forward to many more meetings with you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Carl.
You're welcome. Have a good Thanksgiving, everyone. Don't eat too much there. Don't eat
You
too much.
too.
You too.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.